today we are still in the C's of our junk journaling A to Z, and today we are talking about coffee filters. Coffee filters. They are super versatile and super cheap. They are great because you can find them at the dollar store. You can find them really cheap. And even if you find them, where you grocery shop, you can get them for really pretty inexpensive, and you get a ton of them. Like, I don't even know how many was in this pack. But I had Lizzie pick me up a brand new pack of them when I went to, isn't that just fun to watch? It's very satisfying to play with. When she went to the store just for this video, because I'd actually run out of the non-bleached ones, and for our coffee, I just had a pack of bleached ones, which you can certainly use too. I just didn't bring any of those along because I had these. You can stain them all different kinds of colors, and we'll look at that in just a few minutes. But they're really versatile. Like I said, they're a very easy, accessible supply. So if you are new to junk journaling, these are certainly something that makes it very easy to make some pockets and do some things right from the jump. And because they're accessible, most people, if you're smart people, you drink coffee every day. I forgive you if you don't. But if you're like me, your house does not have these in it. We always have coffee filters. So they're really easy to come by. And even if you don't have them right in your pantry right now, they are, they're easy to find, at almost any store. And cheap. And you get a ton of them. So you'll have them, you can buy packs of them. You'll have them for a long time. So I just thought, okay, I went through and just kind of played last night for a little while I was watching some videos, and made a few things and played a little bit with some stamps and some sprays, some ink sprays. And I thought, let's just go through a few things. The one thing I want to say again off the top about coffee filters is that whether you get the unbleached ones or these, or you can get the ones that are more like a funnel shape kind of, those work really great for pockets too. I just didn't have any of those and didn't think to tell Lizzie to grab me any. They're thin. And so one of the great things is if you're using them in a journal, they're not, even to make flowers like this, they're not going to bulk up your journal too much, because they're so much thinner than a normal paper would be. So they do all kinds of cool stuff. Plus they are, they tear easy and stuff, but they're also fairly sturdy as far as that goes. I can sew, right onto a single thickness of a coffee filter, so I don't have to double it up. I can sew right onto a single thickness, and the sewing machine has no problem going right over it, which then makes kind of a really cool feature. Yeah. So, and they because of the nature of how they're made to be a filter that strains, water through them, they take inks and dyes in really cool ways as well. And I'll show you how I did some of that in a minute. I do have right up here, I can show you. I do have this is a this is an avocado stained coffee filter from Happy Mail. So cool, right? And that I had folded. I was going to obviously use that as a pocket in something, but I never got around to it. But I will show you that kind of pocket in a minute. But let's just look through some of the projects that I've done, and then we'll maybe talk through a few ways to make some of these things. The first thing that I will show you is coffee filter as a ruffle on the edge of a page, right? It's so cute, and it's so thin that it really is not going to bulk up your journal. So you could include this, right in the middle of a signature, It doesn't have to hang off the side. It could be a shorter page within the signature, and this isn't going to bulk up your journal too, excessively much. Plus, look at how cute that is. I mean, it just kind of lends itself to a ruffle, right? And so the way I do that, we're gonna sacrifice some coffee filters here today. So the way I do that is to take my, and you can, like this one I made fairly wide. You can make it as wide or as thin as you want to by, I fold mine in quarters just to make it easier and to make my cuts a little more even. But I'm not putting a hard crease because I don't want a hard crease in the middle of my ruffle. So I'm just kind of laying it. And so you can cut as far down here as you want to, and then you'll have a longer ruffle, or you can cut further up here and you'll have a shorter ruffle. So let's just do that. Let's go like medium ruffle. And don't throw away the middle part because you can always do more stuff with that. So look at that. Already we have this cute little piece, and then we cut it in half. Or cut it open, and then because it's rounded like this, right, as we straighten it out, it will automatically have a flat edge, a straight edge, because it was cut in a circle, and then the edge will ruffle up. Does that make sense? So let me show you. If we just glue, I'm going to put some art glitter glue down here. And we'll try to lay the ruffle along here, along this edge. As you sew it, you have to be careful that you keep it straight. But you can gather this as much as you want to, but you kind of have to work it to keep it straight. So you want to keep, this paper is great because it has a line on it, so I can just kind of keep trying to eyeball it along that line. But you want to keep your cut edge, so you glue the cut edge down, or sew it down, and you want to keep that straight. You want to keep that running straight. So sometimes it takes a little coaxing because it wants to ruffle up on the other edge. So you just got to keep this side running straight. And because, like I said, because it was cut in a circle, this side is going to, when you straighten out this edge, that side is going to automatically ruffle. And then we just cut off the excess and save that because, you can make more ruffles. And look at that. That is the cutest little pleated ruffle there because of the nature of, the paper, the way that it's molded. Excuse me, guys, allergies again. Because of that, it automatically makes this ruffle. It makes it super easy to do. Now, this one, I kind of took my hand and flattened it out to make it, sit nicely in the book. And that's going to happen eventually anyway as you use it. So you can kind of just use your hand. You could, this one I'm just doing randomly the way, as it will fall. But you could, because it is pleated like this, you could also, or because it's curvy, wavy, you could pleat it by actually, like what we would call box pleats or something, by actually folding at each one, and you'd end up with this really nice, straight pleats because you've got these marks that are already made for you to make pleats. And then that's a cute way to add a little extra on the side of something or add it behind an image. You can ink, they take ink great. So, there we go. So that's our first thing. Coffee filters as ruffles. Super cute. Not bulky. You could glue some ribbon or some extra trim along there. And how cute is that? It's very sweet. And it feels cool because it's coffee filter, so it's a different kind of paper. It's got a different feel to it. All right. The next thing, I think we'll save flowers for later because my fingers are going to get all gluey. We're going to close this up though because it's going to be a minute. Okay, so this one is a belly band that also is a double pocket. So you can figure out pretty easily what I've done here, right? So this is a coffee filter. And to make them flat, you can iron them, certainly. I do not have out my iron right now. So the other way that I do with fairly successfully is to take my bone folder and just kind of go over the edges where it's ruffly, you know. And then do that and just tear the heck out of it. Okay, take two. Anyway, this is the way that I do it, right? Is I gently bone folder my way around the edges to try and kind of smooth it out. I'll go like this with my hands. Sometimes flip it over and do the other side. But I don't mind some of the, kind of wrinkliness in there because I think it provides texture, and I happen to be somebody who loves texture. Now, listen, I'm doing this and I'm talking. I'm going to rip it again. So on this one, I sewed around the edge of it circular like this. Circular. I went all the way around the edge before I did anything to it, just to give it, because then I knew it would have, some detail around the edges there, right? So, and that's when I took it through my sewing machine, just a single, thickness of it like this, and it went through like butter. It didn't have any problems. It didn't tear or snag or anything. So I did that and then decided kind of how wide I wanted it to be. But what I kind of used was this, the circle or the base part where it stops ruffling. And I folded this edge over to the far side of that. And fold that in half. And then I just fold this side over until it reaches, back that edge. Now you want to, I like using the grid on my board here. So I've got this edge kind of lined up, and then I want to make sure that where I'm folding here, I'm folding a straight line as well, because it's pretty easy to get them askew because it is a circle that you're working with, right? So now it kind of just, when I was doing this, I was like, it kind of reminds me of a cannoli, which, yum. So we have the basic shape then. Well, that one's upside down, but the basic shape, and then I just sewed down the edges like this. When I sewed down this edge, I caught the edge of this flap, so it made it into a pocket. Does that make sense? When I sewed down here, I made sure I caught the edge of this one, this flap, so it turns it into a full pocket. You could glue this. Now, I will say, if you use things like a very wet art glitter glue or something, because it's a filter, it's gonna absorb that and stay wet for a while. So I like to use my glue stick, but you have to be careful with your glue stick because as you're rubbing it across the paper, it can tear, right? But in this case, this one I made into a triple pocket. So this front pocket here, well, the back pocket, these are just offcuts that I grabbed out of my scrap bin, right? So there's my back pocket, and then there's my front pocket right there behind this side. And then you could glue this in top and bottom onto a page and use it as a belly band as well, right? So, but this one's just plain. But you could use one of the ones, so let's look at those really quick, while we're here, while we're talking about it. You could use one of the ones that I've decorated. Now, these are super fun to decorate. All right, let's organize a little. So last night, I pulled out my stamps and started stamping on them, and they take a stamp nice and crisp. So I just stamped, you know, off the edges and kind of all over. This one I stamped a bunch of ABCs on there. This one, those are both with, these are all, I did all of these with Distress Dyes, but these are with OMG. What is the name of this color? Now it's going to make me crazy, so I have to go, oh, Ground Espresso. Isn't that fitting? Ground Espresso ink for my coffee filters. This one is Black Soot. And so I did some stamping and some overlap stamping and everything, and it turned it into, so this is like the Tim Holtz wallpaper remnants stamps. So I just kind of stamped them all over the place, and that gave it some nice texture. This one I did with some leaf stamps and Ground Espresso again. Perfect for like a nature journal. And then here I did them in Forest Moss. So now they're green, and that looks really pretty on this unbleached filter. So again, like perfect for a nature journal or a woodland journal or something. Well, any journal. So then I thought, okay, let's get out my splatter box and do some distress inks on them and see how they do with that, knowing that they are a filter. So the one thing I will say is, if you don't, you know, if you don't own them, if you don't own distress inks or sprays or dyes or any of those things, you can certainly do this with all kinds of coloring, food coloring. You could do this with some Kool-Aid. You can do this with coffee stain. You can do this with all kinds of things, right? But because there's a difference between the distress oxide sprays and the distress ink sprays. Oxides and inks, oxides and dyes, they're two different things. And I'll show you the main difference is this one is done with only dyes or just the distress ink stain, and so it disperses, and I didn't do anything special to it. That's just, I sprayed it on, and this is how it looks, right? These oxides are going to act a little different because there's an oxide in there. It's pigment, and it will sit more in a specific area, and so it will give you, even if you saturate it, it will give you more of this splattered mottled look, unless you just totally saturate the whole thing. So difference, right? And we'll do a whole video on that when we get to I for inks or something like that. So anyway, and then when you get them wet and then dry them, let them dry, they dry absolutely flat. So it does take the memory of the, you know, wrinkle out of the coffee filter, which if you want flat coffee filters, that works great for. So here's a few that I did. I just got out some of my ink sprays and stuff and sprayed them. And these are some fun results, right? Here's some blues and greens. This one was a mixture. This was a combination of stains and oxides. So that's why you have some that's just kind of staining in the background. And this is the same ones, just without the stain. It's just the oxides. So you can see it looks a lot more splattery, right? So those are super fun, and the stamped ones are super fun. So now you can see how you can take this, which is fun in itself, and you could decorate it up by putting some flowers or whatever your, you know, theme or whatever you're working with, some stamps, whatever, little ripped images, just do some ripped collage or cluster on there. But you can take this and really up it, you know, make it next level by doing some stamping and stuff on there. And like I said, as long as you're stamping on a nice, you know, solid surface, it, with good stamps, it takes the stamps and it really elevates it. It makes it look really nice. So, excuse me, guys. So let's do this belly band idea, but let's do it with one of these. Let's do it with one of these. And you could even, yeah, okay. You could even stamp on top of the already dyed filter, right? So we could take this as our base and add stamps to the top of it to add another layer of texture, which would be really cool. So again, I'm just lining up that straight line. And then want to make sure that I'm being somewhat straight on this edge. Yes. All right. So you want to be, you know, gentle, but not over. You don't have to be overly gentle with them. So what I think I'll do is, because I like the stitching, I will go over to my machine and I'm gonna sew around the outside like this, and then I will close it and I will sew from top to bottom on this side, making sure I catch this flap. And then I will sew from top to bottom on this side, and I'll be right back. Okay, look at how cool that turned out. So now the difference being, this one, you don't see the stitching on camera, especially as well, because I've used, you know, kind of an off-white thread on a not, you know, a natural colored coffee filter, but here you can see it way better on that, you know, dyed one, and it's sewed, you know, really easily again. And this is a cool way to, now you've got space to add in some additional, this is just a big giant offcut, right? So you can add in some additional journaling space. And it's kind of cool to have, I like belly bands that serve multi-purposes, right? So it's kind of cool to have one that's not just holds back your stuff, but, you know, you can also slip things in there. So that's double. And this really is not that thick at all. And you could, like I said, you could stamp an image on there. Let's see what stamps do I have over here? Let's do a leaf, huh? Just a simple leaf, since we've got, yeah, let's just do a leaf right on there. I'm going to take these guys out though, so we get a nice crisp image. And let's do ground espresso. And we'll just put one nice image on there. And I think this is a really fun way to use coffee filters. And like I said, we'll glue it onto a, okay, that's gonna go over the stitching a little on the edges, which is fine, but I'm gonna rock my stamp a little to make sure that I get, you know, a crisp image. Oh, cool. These really do accept stamps really quite well. So look at that. Neato. Neato. Okay, and then I've got my, you know, like I made a little fake signature again, just with like 3 pages of paper, so that we can, you know, pretend like we're gluing things in. Whoops. We'll go from the end where it's not the cutoff end, because it's easier to feed through. Plus then we get to see the staggered end there. And this is just, this was like an off-cut piece of Edith Holden, and it's a poem by Longfellow. So I was like, okay, we'll just stick that in there. Okay, and then we'll get to that in a sec. But let's go in here and then let's glue it down as a belly band, okay? So I'm going to, actually, I think I'll use my, actually, I'm going to take these out just in case it seeps through the filter, because glue seeps through the filter. I'm going to use my Fabri-Tac because I'm going to glue on the thread so that hopefully it's got a little more grab where the thread is, but also because Fabri-Tac hopefully will sit on top more than soak through. So I'm going to lay this out. Now, your standard coffee filters are not quite as tall as a signature, which actually makes them perfect for a lot of other things in junk journaling. If you're doing a standard, you know, 8.5 by 11 or like A4 signature, the coffee filter is usually not quite as tall. Okay, so because I've only glued it on top and bottom, it can also be a belly band. So now we can slide our stuff back in. we can slide this one in. And that book page I just slid in behind the belly band is just my off stamper. That's really what that is, right? So cool, huh? Look at that. I love the vibrant green of that against this. That would be so cool in a nature journal, right? So there we go. There's another Slicko idea. Love that. We can just leave that in there for now. Then another idea while we're in our faux signature here is this idea of making sewing coffee filters actually into your signature as an additional little page. So this one, I have used a double thickness to give it a little strength. And, you know, you can see the other half of it on this side, right here. So it's a little pocket. So let me show you what that looks like out of the signature. And I just stuck, again, some little scraps in there. But it's essentially just 2 coffee folders. Now I used, like I said, a double thickness on this one. And I kind of like the ruffliness of this one now. It looks like a fan, which is really cool. But I, again, have sewn around the outside. So I sewed around the outside of the 2 filters together to put that kind of scalloped edge on there. But you could just do whatever kind of sewing, or you don't have to sew it at all. But if you're going to do 2 of them together, you probably want to affix them together somehow. And then I folded them offset, right? So one comes lower than the other. So you can see, you know, you can have a big, nice big pocket here. And when you fold that in half, you know, so if you were going to sew it into a signature, you lay it in your signature. If you fold that in half, then this nice, you know, you get this nice right angle here, and it holds journal cards, squared off journal cards really easily. So like this, you can fit nice things in there, and you can fit, you know, fairly large pieces in there as well. So really easy. This one, and then this one I sewed down to, you know, down the middle like this and across the bottom just to make it extra secure. But you can do it however you want to. You could do this, you could just fold it and put it into a signature. So like this one over here, you could just fold it up like this, fold it in half and put it into a signature like this. You don't have to sew on it or glue on it or anything. And just by it being in the signature, it will cause it to, you know, create the pocket. So you can kind of do that however you want to. But this one, again, this would be another one that would look great if you make it out of one that's stamped or something, right? So let's take our green and we will fold it up so that it doesn't, you know, we leave maybe, I've got maybe like a 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch at the top there, and then put a fold in. And you can also take these and Mod Podge them onto paper. You can glue them onto paper. You can sew them onto paper. You'll see I've backed them with a napkin in a minute when we look at an envelope that I made. So you can, you know, leave them just as is, or you can do any one of those other things to strengthen them. But, you know, these will survive pretty well just sewn into a signature. So let's put that guy in here. So you saw I just folded it. I didn't do anything special to it. And as you come to that page in the book, it kind of just creates another little nice little place to tuck stuff in, right? And just by the nature of that, having that seam being sewn, it will create a nice little flip. You can put decorations on there. You could put one of your little flowers on there if you wanted to. You could put a journaling spot on the back, although I kind of just like the way that the leaves look. So that's an easy little tuck that you can make, or I mean page. And then also, I just want to say, one of the cool things is when they're stamped like this, right? You can just put them into a signature like this as just an additional piece of interest. so that as you're flipping through, there's just another piece of interest there. And if you're going for a really, like if you were going to do this, if I was doing this into a nature journal, I'd probably make it folded evenly. And because I would love to have a really organic edge, I'm going to fold it and fold it and fold it. And then I'm going to just rip, let's see, it's too hard to rip super thickness. So I'm going to rip just the edge off, because then it gives it this even more kind of organic look. And this would look so cool as just an additional page feature sewn into your signatures in a nature journal. But you could stamp it with all kinds of things. If you were working on florals, you could stamp it with florals, do a bleached one, and then it would take, you know, colorful dyes and be really pretty that way. Let's see, I think I had it folded this way. So now it's got this nice torn organic edge, and this would look super cool as you're flipping through a journal and you come and just have this extra piece in there, right? Real cool. And I like that torn organic edge like that. And of course, you can ink the edges of them. It's a little bit harder than inking like you would ink normal paper. You have to be more careful, especially now that I've torn the edge of it. But let me find I've got all my inks stacked up over here and out of reach because I thought I wouldn't be reaching for them. And I'm going to put a piece of, maybe I'm going to put a piece of, why is it when you're looking for a piece of something, there's never a piece of something? Here we go. So you gotta be careful. I would, you know, you can't, it's hard to do like this way, because it just wants to bend and tear and rip now that I've got this ripped edge, but it's taking it well this way so you can accent the edge of it. And actually, as I'm doing this, I'm kind of pulling out, I see some of the fibers of the filter, which I hope when I'm done with this, I'll be able to show you what I'm talking about. It looks really cool. It's like extra embellishing that kind of organic feel to the edge of this. Okay. Here, maybe if I put it against this white paper, you'll be able to see. Can you see? Can it? Well, as I went, it kind of pulled out just some little fibers on the edges to make it even more raggedy looking. So there it is with inked edges. Now it stands out even more as you come to it in the book, right? So cool. There's another use for coffee filters. This, I'm pretty sure I saw this from Natasha at Treasure Books. And this, she was making them with doilies and coffee filters. I think that's where I saw it. I hate when I don't remember. But it's a notebook that can go in your journal over the edge of a page. And it's, you know, super torn. You could make it very, you know, cut circular if you wanted to. You could really make the edge look however you wanted to. You could take pinking shears and make it, you know, pinked, whatever you want to do. But this is, I took one of my stamped coffee filters and put it on the outside. And then I layered up, so I've got some coffee stained paper, some coffee stained old graph paper, some manila paper, and then a real grungy piece of coffee stained paper. And I lined them up and tore them around the general shape. I have not inked the edges of them. Certainly you could ink the edges of all of this to make it look a lot, you know, to stand out even more. I just didn't do that last night. And then I took it, laid it out, and sewed with my sewing machine, just a straight stitch right down the middle. You could bind it, you could staple it if it's not too deep and you have a stapler deep enough, you could put a couple staples in. You could bind it with like a 3-hole pamphlet stitch real easily if you wanted to. It was just really quick to zip it through my sewing machine, so that was what I chose to do. And then it really does look pretty cool on the edge of a journal. Now, you just have to make sure that the papers that you put, so that the coffee filter itself is 8 inches made flat. So you have to make sure that if you're doing just 8.5, that your papers don't stick out one end or the other much more than 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Otherwise, it'll be sticking out the tops of the book, and there's a chance that it would get, you know, kind of battered. But it's super easy. It goes over the edge of your page. It fits just perfectly. And then I just used this paper clip that I had on my desk to hold it on there. And now it looks really cool because you've got all this texture, and you turn the page and you've got more texture, and you've got a little mini notebook that you can take out, and there's a ton of journaling space in there because the coffee filter is as big as it is. There's a ton of journaling space. You could do it with a variety of colors. This would be another place that you could extend a digital kit by printing out extra, you know, of the main pages and tearing them down and layering them up. That would look really cool. And then you could dye your coffee filter or, you know, decorate the front of it if you wanted to. But I like this because honestly, this is not that thick. Coffee filters are thin, and this is not that thick with 4 sheets of paper in there, that this doesn't feel like it would super bulk up, you know, a signature of a journal either. So, but it provides for a lot of additional journaling space. So if you're someone like me who sometimes tends to over embellish the pages of a journal, then I find that I want to find ways to like make additional space for journaling, and this would be a good way to do that by making these notebooks. And you could make them as big or small as you wanted to. If you wanted to make them smaller in scale, you could just cut down the coffee filter, and therefore you would tear the papers around it, you know, smaller. Or like I said, you could cut them right to the circular shape if you wanted. If you were doing a floral journal, how cute. Let's try that one. So I just thought of that. Let's pick one that's kind of flowery colored. And we'll fold it in half. And then for the sake of cutting, I'm going to fold it in quarters. And I'm going to go with my scissors and cut kind of a petal shape. A very rustic, organic, not super planned out floral shape. And you could totally do the same concept like this, but you could make it floral, and you could make those petals go a lot deeper if you wanted to. And how cute would that be? You could make the papers that go underneath it be floral as well, be scalloped like this. And then you'd have this like layered flower look, and you could attach that over the edge of your page, and it would be so cute. It would go right with your flowery theme. You know, you could put some leaves on there. You could stamp some flowers. You could make some flowers and put a flower on the front of your little notebook. That'd be a way you could jazz this up as well, is by putting, just make sure that, you know, you've got room to clip it on somehow. But how cute is that? Honestly, pretty adorbs. But yeah, this would be a great idea too, to do it that way, right? So I actually really like the way that looks. So let's just glue it on. Let's use the glue stick. They're on some of this off stamped paper, so it'll make it easier to, I don't have to worry about the coffee filters tearing as I'm running glue over it. All right. So we're getting through so many ideas. The filters also make great pockets and envelopes, and you can fold them about 1,000 ways to do that. This is an envelope that I made, right, out of a, oh, did I glue it shut? A little bit right there. Like I said, you got to be careful. Both napkins and coffee filters are made to be absorbent. So you got to be careful. And that's just slightly too big to go in here. But you can fold them into all kinds of really cool configurations of pockets and envelopes. This one has a straight edge here. And what I did with this one was, let me see if I've got, I know somewhere over here from my napkin escapades. No, okay, here we go. Not that long ago on a previous video, I've got some napkin pieces that I was decoupaging with. So that's what this was. And I love the feel of this. But I took let's move these over for a second, coffee filter. And this one's not going to be quite big enough, but that's okay because it has a straight edge here to be the flap of my, or the front flap of my. So as long as you can fit most of your coffee filter, then this one would have a pretty large cutoff there. That's probably too big, but you can make it work. Anyway, I didn't do anything to stick the two of them, bond them together. I just sewed around the whole thing. So I went like this. And I made a real rough cut at first because you can trim it afterwards. And it's way easier to not try to make a precise cut. Okay, so I'm gonna lay this out on front here. And when you've got a napkin design that has a fold in it like that, or the edge of a design, something like this works well because you're folding it up and you're not gonna really see anyway. Edges, yeah. So I went like this, coffee filter and napkin on front, and even though it has this straight edge here where I couldn't fit it all on, that's okay because that's what I cut off to then make that edge. So I'm going to go really quick to my sewing machine. I'm not doing anything other than just kind of holding them together, and I'm going to sew around, but then when I get to the straight part here, and let's trim that down so it'll make it easier to see. Then I'll go straight across there. So I'll go do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have just sewn around the edges of that thing, right? Now I'm going to take my scissors and trim. Okay, so now I've got a nice, neat, trimmed piece. And here's where you can decide if you want the napkin to be on the outside, or, you can do it on the inside as well and have it just be kind of a nice little surprise as you open the envelope, right? Then you see that on the inside. That was a really bad example of it. I'm like, look, guys, see? So since we've got this one on the outside, let's do this one on the inside. So this is obviously going to be the piece that folds up, right? And we're going to fold our sides in. Sides in. And I try to just kind of eyeball it and make sure that they're going in about the same distance. And I'm going to line up again on here and try to make sure that I make a straight fold over here. Yeah. Okay. Then the bottom part you can fold up, as far as you want to go. And fold that over. Now you could stop right here and this would be a great pocket, right? So if you just sewed along the edges here, you could make a great pocket for to go on your page and have things go inside of both there and this front pocket here, right? So how cute would that be? And I kind of like that it's just got the little floral tease behind it there. So you could do it. This one could be a pocket as well, right? Just stuck down to your book page, just like that. Or you can take it to the next step and fold the top part down and turn it into an envelope. And then you can put these, you know, over the edge of a page. You could put a little journaling card or something in there and tuck it in a pocket. You could glue it to a page and have it be an envelope on there. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff, all the things that you would do with an envelope. This one, I did not sew up the sides. I just glued the sides down. So I used an extremely thin, thin bead of, come on, Fabri-Tac. Am I like clogged or what? There we go. And I even kind of use the nozzle to just spread it around so it's even thinner. And then I go like this, and I do not press very hard. I kind of tap, 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 tap gently. Because I do not want it to soak all the way through and glue my envelope shut. Like I almost did with this one. These are a little bit more puffy, you know, because I've double lined it and it's got this napkin that's not like permanently adhered. They're not adhered to each other, so it is a little bit more. And then I'm going to go like this right away, guys, and make sure that I'm not bled through and doing anything wrong in there with my fingers. Nope, we're good. So then you've got your cute little envelope, and you can do with it what you please. It would be cute if you sewed the rest of the way around it. It would just add to that already sewn edge, you know, the sewn details. And then like this was going to be too big, but you know, then it looks really cute with something stuck in there. Like I said, it looks cute as a pocket as well, or fold it down into an envelope. So there's that. And then that pocket, what did I do? Okay, so you can fold coffee filters. Well, let's do one of the stained ones since we've got them. Or let's do a stamped one, huh? So this one, you can sit and play with the coffee filter for a long time and fold it into any variety of pockets, right? Like you can start going crazy with things like this and go along the edge of a page, you know, if you put this down in the corner of a page, you've got spots there and tuck spots there and behind, right? You can fold them into any variety. Excuse me, got to adjust in my chair there. Any variety of pockets. This one's a pretty easy one. I just fold it, you know, I leave probably a good 1.5 inches at the top there. And then I fold these two sides in to kind of match. So since I know, well, just kind of match to like just about meet. A little more on that side. Okay. And as long as I'm keeping them straight along the bottom here, then the side folds will be good. Okay, so now with this one, all I did was sew down and around, right? And that creates multiple pockets. It creates this pocket, and this big pocket here. You can put things in this way. If you overlap these a little more, then it creates this front pocket here as well. So then it creates kind of like that pocket, right? In addition to these back here. So that's kind of the nice fun thing about having these big round circles, is that you can do them in a variety of ways. Now, I think what I will do with this one is I'm going to go back to its original configuration. And instead of sewing it like this, now, how great would it be to stamp a bunch of these and sew a bunch of them like this and have them on hand to use in your journals? I mean, what a great thing. Even just basic ones like this. You could make some in the bleached ones, some in these regular ones, because it goes with so many themes. You know, you can decorate this up and do all kinds of things to make it different themes. This one, I'm going to take our faux signature here, and I'm going to sew it directly onto the page. So before I sew it down, I'm gonna go across this back part, right? Because I don't want to sew that on, because I can leave that open as a tuck spot as well. So I'm gonna sew that before I put it on, and then I'm gonna lay it down on this page and sew the edges, and it'll go right through. So I'll do that, and I'll be back in a second to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, guys, so now we've got this pocket sewn right onto the page, and it's kind of cool. This stamp makes it almost look like fabric, and because it doesn't feel like paper, it feels like filter. It looks kind of like it, and you can just see my sewing right, you know, on the back side there. But now we've got this cool pocket, and you can put things in just the sides, you know, the side tucks like this. Because I made it so that they don't meet in the middle, it's just slightly offset, like that. If you make it so they don't touch, then you can slide stuff in both sides, so that looks kind of cool as you slide things in and into this pocket here. And behind it as well, you could put something taller in. So you could have, I have some bookmark right over here, I think. Oh, I've got this envelope. So we could put this in sideways, and we could put something taller in back there. So it creates a multi-pocket, but again, this is thin, so it's not gonna cause too much bulkiness. If I've said it once, I've said it 400 times now, I think. I like coffee filters for that reason. So this is going to be our everything made out of coffee filter signature. Here's our cool belly band. There's the other side of that. And we can put one of these envelopes over the edge of a page like this, right? With another little paper clip. How cute is that? All right, now our last but not least thing is, let's talk flowers. They are fun to make out of coffee filters, and I've done them 3 different ways. This one is straight edged. I just cut straight. This one is torn edges, and this one I cut like kind of like what I did here with this filter. I did that same thing here. And then I just put buttons in the middle, but you could do whatever you wanted to in the middle. So let's just do some flower making, huh? Should we do some with these stamped ones? Why not? That might make kind of a cute one. And then we'll make one with those. We'll do one with these stamped ones, and then we'll do some with the... Okay. So let's see. I'll make that my middle layer because it's kind of got bigger, bolder. So what I'm going to do is fold this thing in half, then in half again. It's kind of like making a snowflake. You know, when you'd fold your paper, fold it and fold it and fold it. And then I'm going to fold it one more time, just trying to make sure that I keep the point down there. Now, how wide you do this first cut is going to determine how big your flower is, right? So if you didn't cut it at all, you'd end up with a flower, you know, just slightly smaller than this. So this first one, I'll do a scout. Let's do torn. Let's do torn on this one. If you're going to tear, I suggest backing it up a bit because it's hard to tear through that many layers. And then I'm going to go like halfway is what I'm going to go for. And I'm going to try and keep about the same width here as I tear. That's why it's nice to fold it up as much as you can, because then it makes it easier rather than trying to cut around the whole perimeter. This makes it easier to be a little more even, if that makes sense, I hope. Okay, so now we've ended up with two pieces. We've got our outside piece here, and we've got our inside piece here. We do not want to get rid of either piece. So we're gonna start with this one though, and we're gonna cut it open, right, just like we did before. And I'm gonna find a piece of, oh, I was gonna use a piece of that. Oh wait, I think I've got some over here. Or maybe I don't. Oh, here, I've got the off tear piece of this. That'll work. We just need some sort of a base to glue the flower to. So these are glued to some of that book page that I was stamping off on. So we just need something. So now you're literally just gonna start kind of smooshing and gathering, and your goal is to get all the way around, right, to make a full round piece. And to keep the center as close together as possible. So I am not one for trying to make all of my little folds or ruffles even here at all. I just kind of actually like the messy look a little more. And so I just start going. Sometimes the pleats of the actual coffee filter, you know, the memory of those in the filter itself help kind of guide you. But then if you've added inks or anything to it, then those are a little bit more gone. So smooshing, smooshing, smooshing. And then I'm gonna, there we go. So our goal was to keep the middle, right? Now I'm gonna take my art glitter glue and I'm gonna apply a goodly amount in the middle there. Oops. Oh, I just lost it. That's okay. Once I've put in my ruffles, it's fairly easy to regain my shape here. Trust me, I've done it. I did this multiple times as I was working through these. Okay, so once I've got my edges overlapped a little bit here, I'm just going to take this whole thing as it is and set it down and glue it down. Now, obviously, it's not going to catch these ones that are overlapped up here, but it will catch most of the rest of the pieces of ruffle. So then I just take my glue and kind of go under some of the little bits right here and just make sure some of those ruffles and kind of tap them down in the middle. The nice thing about it being filter is that if you put enough glue on there, it kind of soaks through and grabs it all anyway. So there we go. I like to use the bottom of my inker to kind of press things down so that it doesn't get super sticky on my fingers. And then I just wipe it off real easily. Okay, so that is step one, right? We have the base of our flower. It already looks cute, and you could slap a button or something in the middle of there and call it done. Or you could take it next level. So with our next piece, you could use the same piece, but I kind of want to try making some different layers. I'm going to put this, cap this for a sec. So now you could make another layer of ruffles, which I think what we'll do with this one. And this one I've just cut some circles out to make some rufflies in the middle. But I think we're going to make another layer of ruffles on this one because I want to try the different layers of stamped filter. So I'm going to fold and fold. And then I'm going to tear another edge. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go, so this one was like that wide. I'm going to try and go less, more narrow. So tear and trying to stay even. I'm doing about an inch here. So you can see how you could make these really as big as the coffee filter would allow you to, or you can make them smaller. So then we've got these middle pieces here. They already look cool, just layered on top of each other. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing here. I'll fast forward this part, but I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna gather around, keeping the middle here and pleating as I go, and I'll be right back. So there is the second layer done and glued down into the middle of that. How cute is it looking already? Real shabby kind of, huh? Rustic shabby. So then you could just pop a button in the middle of that right now and it would look really cute, right? A bigger button would look cute, like this one, kind of a big button. Or we can take and make the little ruffly things in the middle, which is kind of cute too. So to do that, I just took this and folded it into, my small little like snowflake cone, and then go like this and give it a ruffle. And don't lose this because you can make more flowers out of it. But now you have to check, is that going to be too big? Yup. So sometimes when I'm doing this, I think, oh, I can't go much smaller than that. It'll be tiny. But really, you can go quite tiny with this because you got to remember when you open it up, it opens up into a whole circle. So, I mean, see how tiny that is? But as I open it up, it gets bigger. So there was already some glue down there that I can kind of just almost feel it's picking up right there. And then we could make an even tinier one with this one. Way down to like the teeny weeniest little thing. Yep, but I think this one's going to need a dab of glue. There you go. And then you can add a tiny little button. You could leave it like this. You can add a little button, a little pearl, put some glue and some little seed beads down there to be a cute little, center of your flower. You can do whatever you want to with it. But again, you can fluff these up and you could put this on the cover of a book. That would look really cute. But the nice thing is you can also make them fairly flat. And I'm going to say it again because they're coffee filters, they're thin, and these flowers, even though they're full of luscious layers, they are going to be fairly flat and not very bulky. So it's an easy way to make an embellishment that has a lot of texture and layer, but without too much bulk in your book. And then save these because you can make more flowers out of them, right? If we cut that one and gathered that, we'd have a bigger flower. And you can make layers with this. So there we go with an easy flowers. And like I said, this one I used torn edges, right? This one I cut. These are just flat edges that I cut. And then I cut 3 layers of the little ruffly, you know, flowers in center in the middle, like that. And then this one's got torn. The torn edges on this one you don't see because the torn edges were on the inside. You would see them on this flower, right, if you made that one. So, and then it's got this nice little base that's easy to glue into a book or something as well. So guys, there we go with a whole bunch of fun ways. I'm not going to do a colorful flower right now just because this video will be forever long, but you've seen how to do one. So now you know how you can make one. But we've run through several ways to make several fun projects with coffee filters, different ways to use them. Now I know, again, you know, like I always say, I am not an expert and this is not an exhaustive list by any means. There are so many more things that you can do with coffee filters. This is just a good jumping off point. Like I said, if you're new to junk journaling, coffee filters are a great medium to work with because you can use them and do so many things. They're usually right in your house. They're cheap. You know, you get so many of them. So if you really blow it and you just don't like what you did, you just pull another one off. I mean, there's like, you know, you get several hundred of them. So they're going to go you a long distance, right? So I really hope that you pull some out and try crafting with them and have a little bit of fun with your coffee filter stuff. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit today as we do C is for coffee filter. And we'll be doing C is for closures, I think, next. Oh, I forgot about this one. Our rufflies. I forgot about our ruffles, our adorbs ruffles. C is going to be for closures next. So we're going to talk about different closures on books. How cute do those flowers look with some coffee stained ruffles? That is like some shabby chic goodness right there. Look at that. Cute. Anyway, I'm off track. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I really hope you go play with this stuff. I hope that you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night. I was definitely watching videos in the middle of the night last night because I didn't sleep very well. So if it's the middle of the night, hi, hey, hope you get back to sleep, unless you don't want to be asleep. And I hope that you guys are able to be safe and healthy and go do something crafty and be crafty and do something that you love and spend a little time enjoying the day today. And until I see you next time, guys, take care and God bless you. Bye-bye.